Okay, hello. Hello, everyone. It is I, Firo, and I'm joined with some wonderful guests today. Now, you guys can't see like what side you're on compared to me.
Oh,
I am popping out chat, so I look the right direction. Otherwise, it just looks like I'm staring off into the abyss.
I'm very sorry for the state of my apartment. It is, I had to break in.
You haven't cleaned it up after yesterday?
Yes.
Fair enough, that's okay, it happens.
Oh, Hastra, I forgot to do the collab command, but I've linked everybody in the title, so you can go check that out.
We all exist.
We exist.
Okay, so on my screen, let's go left to right, I guess. Okay, Mika, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, jeez, okay.
On the spot.
Hi, I'm Mika Akatsuka. I mostly stream on YouTube. I play Apex, and I've done panel stuff at conventions before. And Firo asked me to be here. We talk about some things around the VTuber sphere and how to deal with it emotionally, like adults.
For once in our lives, we are grown up and
once.
acting like adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Ducky, your turn.
Hi, my name's Ducky. I'm a VTuber journalist. I write with Deshoto and VTuber News Drop. These are my friends. I actually got to see a little bit of this kind of thread before it started, and I bumped Firo, and I was like, let's turn this into a stream. And now we're here, finally. I think almost a month after this kind of was first envisioned. So very excited to listen to everyone's opinions and have this very nice discussion.
Yeah. All right, so I introduce myself?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Firozera. Call me Firo. I am Kaiju VTuber from Land of Down Under. G'day, mate. I do the stuff and the things, and sometimes I think about very deep things. So that's what we're doing today.
This is the result of 3 AM brainworms, is what
This is
what I'm
basically
hearing.
it. Yes, it is. All right, Maru.
Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Maru De Cinco, hero of Hope and Tomboy of Tomorrow. I am a sorry, it's 6 a.m. here.
It's okay.
I am a variety streamer, mainly these days doing makers and crafting, building Gunpla on stream, but also, playing games, doing collabs, all this sort of thing. Currently on hiatus while I finish fighting some bad guys, some Spartan superhero, and in other words, I'm doing my thesis for university. It's going great, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you, Firo, so much for the invitation. And yeah, it's a topic I really want to talk about because it's one that, we've all discussed in private, and that, I'm working through my own stuff about it, and I kind of also want to contribute what I've learned in the kind of year and a half I've been VTubing, and also want to kind of discuss it with y'all. So I'm really, really glad, really happy to be here with my friends.
Yay. All right, and last up, Nia, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Near. I'm a little pay-per-view tuber. That's the whole thing with me. I mostly make edited content. I'm a video editor for people.
It's a very good one.
Yes, very, very good.
And can confirm.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm here because I'm also pretty familiar with envy, negative feelings, and I've kind of discussed it with these people fairly intimately. So there we go.
Yeah. Just for the audience as well, how about we just say our pronouns as well so nobody gets mixed up or whatever? I think that'd be good for that. Mika, your preferred pronouns.
He, they is fine.
Yep, that's okay. Ducky?
They, he.
Yep, I go by she, her, that's fine. Maru?
He, her?
Yep, yeah?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, all good, just so everybody knows. All right, so... Ducky,
Actually,
you were
this only just came to me. Firo, are you recording
yes.
as well as streaming?
No, but I mean I can download the VOD afterwards as well.
Okay, I was just going to say
fine.
it would be actually kind of cool to save this for posterity.
Oh yeah, that's okay. I can always download the VOD later. And now that I'm streaming at 1080p, that should be pretty good.
Yeah. I guess this is where I take over.
Yes.
All right. So we are kind of doing this in a moderated fashion. So me being the journalist, I kind of nominated myself to be the moderator because that is what I do in life. I don't have opinions, apparently. And all of these great people have some very wonderful, I guess, insights into this kind of space in terms of envy and VTubing. We've spoken about it extensively in my own Discord server, which is kind of why all these people that you see here are here today. This kind of discussion, we're aiming for it to be around 60 to 90 minutes. It's going to dive through a lot of the topics that we spoke through in Firo's thread that was wonderfully annotated by her. And I guess the way that I kind of want to start this off, and I think we could probably throw it to the host herself, is why did you want to make the thread in the first place, and what kind of prompted the feelings of envy, or like what prompted the thoughts on envious feelings and negative feelings in VTubing?
Oh, okay. So I know some of you talked about it in a chat that we had before, and I just started thinking about it a lot because in the past I've also had those experiences myself, and I thought, well, nobody's really talked about it in public before, and if it ever does get brought up, it's not really in a constructive manner. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a dive, go into my own feelings about this, and do a little bit of research as well, and see if I can do something which I can share with the greater public, which might end up helping somebody. That was basically it, really. Just the fact that nobody had talked about it before really interested me.
And I guess for everyone else in here who has probably read the thread in some capacity or has some opinions on this matter, what are your thoughts on envy, and what kind of prompted you to be like, okay, I'm actually kind of chill to join this group discussion? I guess I'll go with Mika first. We'll go left to right.
Oh, wait, why am I going first? Why am I being made to go first? What is this? I feel bullied. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. I guess what kind of prompted you to join in on this discussion? Because obviously the thread was shared around. You kind of said yes to coming onto this. You could have said no. What are your kind of own experiences in that way?
I think for me, I'm not entirely sure how long everyone else has been streaming, but I think I've been one of the longer length people who has been streaming and kind of seen the rise and fall of VTubing and dealing with those feelings of envy, and like looking at people who started after you who have gained like incredible success where you may not have, and kind of working out how to look at that and how to not take it negatively, and how to use that to push your own feelings and content and things like that. So I felt like it might be a good insight having been around for a bit. So
Maru?
yeah.
Sorry, my model has frozen. I don't know what happened. But yeah, I will start even though my model is frozen because I was covering my mouth while eating because I kept like going like, you know.
Yep.
So sorry, I'm having breakfast. It is 6 a.m. here. Yeah, for me, I really liked I was talking to Firo before she put up the thread. And I really thought that it was, it was great. I got to have like a look at what she was writing before she posted it. And yeah, this is something that is something that started coming up for me a few months into streaming. I've been streaming as a VTuber since December 2021. And yeah, it's exactly that, it's like you see people that came after you or around the same time as you, and they either super blow up or they are doing much better than you are. And you kind of, start comparing yourself to others a lot. And yeah, I don't know. It's something that, I'm sure I'll be talking more about my own specific experiences, but yeah, it's something that started coming up a lot for me as time went on, and that it's been like a thing I've had to deal with kind of constantly, and that I'm trying to build resilience around, and kind of support others around as well. So
yeah. And I'll throw it to you, Nia, a little bit differently, because of the five of us, you probably experienced the most rapid rise and I guess the most rapid change in fame, notoriety, popularity. Everyone wants you to bring back the keys, for example. What was it like dealing with that early on in your VTuber career? I cannot hear him.
Near, okay.
I muted myself in Discord. Okay, that's
Oh, yes, the classic, the classic.
the
Yep.
classic. Yeah. All right. So to start, I started around June 2021 or so, and I have a really unique model. So that gets you. That's a space where you can kind of instantly get like a little bit of an audience with you if you have like the right model for it. So I got a lot of success instantly. And the thing is that when you go viral, it's not often wanted, and you don't always have the ability to take advantage of that. So I kind of had all that hype kind of disappear from me. And around the exact same time, someone that I was talking with started to become like really popular really quickly. And that's, you kind of can't help but feel, more, and I was a little bit more intimately familiar with that. My role in content creation has changed a lot in like the last 2 years, going from like streaming to edited content a lot. I don't really know what else to say other than that. I guess we'll kind of go further from there.
Do you mind sharing which VTuber it is publicly?
I would not like to do that because
Okay,
that feels
That's
a little bit weird.
No, that's all good.
That's okay. Yeah, now,
That's why we
just in case
asked.
the audience was curious, yes.
Yeah. I guess like we've done around the grounds now. Feel free, the rest of you all, jump in if someone says there is something interesting and you're like, hey, I experienced that as well, or hey, here's how I dealt with that.
Did we want to go through the thread as well?
Yeah, I
'Cause
think we'll
that might
probably
be a good
just
way. That might be
yeah.
a good way of doing it. All right, I've just linked it for everybody in there, just if you want to take a look through.
I need to reopen it.
That's okay. I think I can
I have my own notes open.
there we go.
I guess we'll start off with the first panel then.
Yes.
Is success for yourself and success for your friends, and then also like when they kind of mismatch and like things change.
Actually, should we talk about success for VTubers first? I think that might
sure.
put things into perspective. I think that'd be good too. Okay, hang on. I'm trying to put it on the screen.
Yeah, that's all good.
Don't mind me. Okay.
It's not a VTuber stream if there's not scuff.
That's true.
That's fine.
very
We're all
true.
playing with new technology, and we're all constantly burning ourselves.
I am not an expert with OBS. That's
You saw me literally set up my model for like 20 minutes.
That is true. We did.
Oh, we got there. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you just want me to read it out and then we can take it from there and people can pick up the discussion?
I think so. I think that'd be good.
Okay. So on the panel, it says, success tends to be well defined and modeled after what the big agencies consider to be necessary signs. A lot of it comes down to the constant output of celebrated new content, and most obviously big numbers, whether they be followers or subscribers, average viewers, or income. Only a small number of VTubers will ever see that kind of success, but what happens when that VTuber that finds success is your friend? So
See, yeah, because I mean, yeah, we're all very, very competitive when it comes to being a VTuber, because a lot of us are doing this for monetary purposes as well, like to help better our lives. Because a lot of people who are VTubers do have some sort of disability, or they can't find work in a traditional, way. So going into content creation, being a VTuber is a very good alternative sort of environment for them, where they can, feel much more at ease. No, that is a little bit true for me. I will admit.
yeah. I mean, like the envy for me, I'll jump in and insert my own opinion here. Like, comes from, I come from a space where a lot of people that I talk to are way more popular than me. That's the nature of my role. Is I go out and chat to people who I deem interesting, or someone else deems interesting, and try to tell their story. And that happens to be mostly people who are somewhat bigger than me, way bigger than me, galactically bigger than me. And it's hard to kind of then mirror your success there versus like, why am I not as successful as them versus like the other people who do the similar kind of content to me.
It is very, I mean, so for me, my little story here. So I have been in different fields where I have had success, and I've been the person who's been envious of others. So when I was younger, I remember Neopets.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, why do you say remember? Why do you say remember?
Neopets has been a part of our lives
I
forever.
feel so old.
Okay, so
Hmm.
okay, back when Neopets was more of a very, very popular thing, I was actually a one of the more reoccurring comic artists in the Neopian Times.
Ah.
Yeah, I know that's a
Oh.
little bit funny for me to say. but
This
yeah.
story is now coming back to me. I remember you
I think
telling
I've
me
told you
this.
about this before. So yes,
Yeah.
I had a lot of content be accepted to the Neopian Times. My content apparently got so popular, I accidentally caused a bit of a fiasco for the devs in the background.
Oh.
Because the
Wow.
way that I drew one of my characters, one of my ixies, a lot of people were apparently emailing the devs going, "How can I get mine to look like that? How come mine I can't get a color that way? Why won't mine look like that?" So I got a
Whoops.
message. I got a message from what was her name, Felicity or something like that, something like that. She messaged me like, "I'm sorry, you're gonna have to change the design of your Neopet because we've gotten so many emails about this. We need you to conform to more standard looks." I'm like, no.
Oh my god, that's wild.
Mhm.
Damn.
And I'm responsible for why people couldn't
Damn.
draw unusual designs in the Neopian Times anymore. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Wow.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
a hell of a legacy.
It's a strange one, yes. I ruin things for artists in Neopian Times forever.
Started the Neopet uprising.
Yes. So hi Claude, yes, thank you very much. And also thank you everybody for all the follows before as well. I appreciate it. So yeah, I had a lot of people messaging me all the time and they were kind of, some people were angry because getting accepted to the Neopian Times, it wasn't like you were guaranteed success every single week. But so they would pick you based on quality, and I just kept getting in every week, and people would message going, "Well, it's not fair that you're taking up space," that sort of thing. So I could definitely feel some envy there towards me. But on the other hand, so one of my besties, she's actually, I don't know if she's in the audience or not, but we have talked about this before, so it's okay. She's actually one of the, I won't exactly say what she's doing, but in a certain fandom, she was very, very big. She was very much asked for the things that she, like her creative field was very in demand. So we did a lot of traveling around and we met a lot of also famous people. And I was her lighting assistant. And I enjoyed doing that, honestly, but I did get mistreated quite a bit by some of the clients, I will say. And I guess because of that, I also got a little bit envious because she always got treated very well, and I was kind of like, I stood in the background and nobody, they kind of got ignored. So I got a little bit envious of that. And also, of course, it was at a point where she was also able to afford the equipment and I wasn't able to afford it. So there was that disparity there, like, I couldn't do what she was doing. Although, after I got over everything, it was fine. I actually very much enjoyed doing all that stuff.
I guess to the rest of everyone, like, without if you don't want to share the details too much, did you come into VTubing from a previous background where you experienced a different level of fame or notoriety and then had to start from scratch?
I have a little bit of something interesting to say here, I guess. I came from a very small online group that specialized in making really niche fan games and ROM hack equivalents. So there, in spaces where there's not really any sort of monetary gain for doing something, the only sort of thing that you get is social capital. So if you make a particularly good game, you get a lot of respect from people, or you do something that contribute to the community, you hold an event or something like that. That's kind of how you get notoriety in that. And I initially had problems because I went to school for game design, and I would get all these people who were just complete hobbyists and weren't doing this for anything super seriously, going leaps and bounds ahead of what I was able to create at the time. And that can fuel a little bit of insecurity. But when you change to the VTuber space, I think a lot of us came, I'm pretty sure that most of us here came in around 2021 or early 2022, right? Am I correct in saying that? Or...
It was 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, or 2020.
I mean, officially for me, it was late 2022.
Yeah.
Maybe towards the end of 2019 for me, I would say. Yeah. Because Near, I definitely remember when you announced your debut. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's around the time when VTubing was kind of like in its gold rush state, where it was like a booming or like about to boom, and a lot of people during that time you could probably like ride the waves a little bit. You could just stream, and since VTubing is still like catching on in the West, you can kind of get attention that way. Yeah.
Yep.
So you can kind of, like there's a lot of people that joined during that time. I feel that did not get to like ride the wave that everyone else was. So I think that there's a lot of people kind of get concerned and do things like graduate or things like that. That's. I'm not exactly sure what I'll say about that, but
that's all right. I think we're seeing a lot of that this year as well.
Yes.
With 2023, we have seen a lot of graduations, and I know a lot of people are also saying they're feeling a bit burnt out from seeing a lack of growth. That's just naturally from people having to go back to work after COVID and all that as well. But yeah, there's a lot of factors. But
also, it's pretty natural after like 2 or 3 years to start moving
Yes.
jobs nowadays.
yes,
Like, you
yes.
know,
Yeah.
and change pursuits. Like, I look back across my journalism career, it's like I've been in journalism for 7 years, but I've changed story beats typically like once every 3 to 4 years. So, it's kind of just a passage of life.
And there's a lot of people who go into VTubing who don't necessarily understand what's involved in it. And there's been instances where people will drop like, $5,000 or whatever on a model, and then they've never streamed, and then they do it and they go, oh, actually, I hate doing this. And then they just go, oh, this isn't for me, but they've already spent all the money. So they kind of have to do something. Either they have to keep going or, and then
they paid for a virtual paperweight effectively.
Yeah.
Their animated OC. And there's nothing wrong with like the animated OC thing, but
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not for everyone, and some people don't realize that that's the case, and they kind of go in very gung-ho, and it can be difficult, especially because they go in and they don't get immediate success like some people do, a lot of it being based on luck, and kind of like right place, right time sort of thing, and then they go, oh, okay, well, I guess I won't be successful. And so as a result, it kind of can help amplify that. Or if you've been around for a long time and then someone starts and they get like crazy numbers immediately, like I think we're seeing that with certain recent debuts where there's like crazy amounts of numbers all of a sudden, and someone's like seen as very, very successful, but you've been doing it for like 3-4 years or something and you don't see that kind of success, and that can be a tough thing to see.
I mean, like, the number one example in terms of like someone starting and toiling it out for years in VTubing and then finally making it big is probably Iron Mouse. Where
Yes, absolutely.
she started as a very small VTuber for like 2 to 3 years, and then
then exploded with popularity. Yeah.
I guess like to like spin the question a little bit for everyone is like, how is it to then like when you're in this kind of space with like people who debuted around your time and like contemporaries, sometimes friends, sometimes they're not friends, and then seeing their metrics look different to yours?
It's definitely difficult to see people getting ahead of you, especially if you know you have tried your best and maybe you've seen them not, you might not know how much work they've done, or maybe you do know how much work they've done. And if it looks like they haven't actually done that much work, you might feel like it's undeserved towards them. But it's always difficult when you know you've done your best and you still haven't quite gotten where you wanted to.
I think an inherent part. I'm sorry. I think an inherent part about content creation is that it is people don't. It's a very field where you're very much equipped to not see how much work someone else has done, because, like, that's kind of, you just see the end product because that's by design for a lot of people. So it kind of helps amplify that feeling of like, well, it doesn't look like they worked that hard for it.
I guess the flip side of that. Oh, sorry.
I was going to throw to Maru because like she jumped in.
Yeah, go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just I used to be in a very bad habit of sometimes when there were people that were like that started around the same time as I did and were doing better or massively blew up, and I would go like, okay, I'm gonna look at what they did. I mean, I do this sometimes because there is an aspect of fake it till you make it with VTubing, and so I'm like, what are other people doing? What are like what are some ideas that I can bandy about, because this kind of thing happens in creative scenes all the time. It's like, like you look at what other people are doing and that ignites your brain, not to do what they're doing, but to do what you want to do. But when it comes to like big successful people, it's like, okay, this person is successful. What are they doing? And then I would look deeply into what they're doing and then not really get any information, because of course a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes. And this morphed into not looking at what they're doing other than streaming, not just looking at it to learn, but like when it came to like big numbers people, just like look at it to determine, like not to learn what they had done, but rather to judge their success based on what based on what they've done. If that makes sense, like
I guess
so,
it's like
yeah,
the quality of their content versus the numbers is kind of like,
and I would do that, and often the result was feeling bad about myself, and that was not useful. Like I would just go, or like it was either to feel bad about myself or to like dismiss their success, or it was just like not a positive thing, not a constructive thing to do.
May I also add, there's also a layer deeper than that for me specifically, is that I start to feel bad that I have those negative feelings at all. Like you kind of feel like you feel guilty about that. You feel
Like,
ashamed of that.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something earlier, Mika?
Yeah, so what I was going to say with how we don't really know the back end, I think, and this ties into envy of friend success, is that a lot of the time you can see what they're doing if they're sharing, what they're doing with you. And it's kind of like you can see things where it's like, oh, well, they're doing all this stuff that I'm not doing. I should be doing more. I'm not good enough, or they're not really doing anything. Why are they getting that success? Like the success, because you can see what they are doing or they're not doing, and that can also help. That can also be part of a struggle with kind of perception a little bit.
I wanna chime into something that Firo was saying about like you know that you've been doing your best, and that is like something that's been very difficult for me, as in the past year, even before I got the long COVID, the great chimera of our time. I was dealing with health issues. I was dealing with like time, because like I was in uni and then looking for a job or whatever, and even right now I'm on hiatus. I'm on a long-term hiatus to finish university, and I feel like I've done the best that I could, but of course I didn't blow up in the same way that other people I know have blown up, and it's that thing is kind of difficult, isn't it? Because like what we forget, this is not a fair playing field. Like this is like any kind of adjust glasses under capitalism. This is not a fair field. This is not a fair playing field. Like if someone can pay for a better model, they will look better. Like of course there is a huge aspect of personality and production, and they have to have like a capacity to be a streamer and or just a general content creator in a way that is appealing to an audience. But ultimately, like there are a lot of like elements that go into it before you start, and a lot of people point out it like, oh, look at the model Iron Mouse started with or whatever, and look at this, look at that, and like, yeah, but Iron Mouse started with that model in 2017.
It's not 2017 anymore.
Yeah, expectations have changed.
It's not 2017, and she's Iron Mouse. She's not like, because, and that's kind of the thing. It's a highly competitive field, and for me, one of the things that comes up a lot in my brain that I don't necessarily mention to people. So some folks know I am in the upper percentile of age when it comes to VTubers. Because I am 40, and which people don't want to believe me. Trust me. In the words of Pomo Rainbow, believe me, I am 40 years old. And the thing is that I've had an interesting life. I'm talking about it like it's over. I've had an interesting life.
Jeez.
One foot in the coffin.
It's
okay, me too.
It's all of you.
One foot in the coffin, and my model just gets stuck with that expression.
It's staring at the screen. I'm scared.
Oh my god. Okay. I don't know
It's
what
okay.
is happening with my. I don't know what is happening with my.
There's
Other
the
foot now
occasional
in the
blink.
coffin.
It's just blinking.
Another foot in the coffin. I'm gonna keep talking with this expression. I'm sorry. I'm trying to reconnect it. But yeah. So okay, there we are.
There we go.
But the thing is, a lot of the experience that I have is not like some of the experience that I have translates well into VTubing, and some of it does not. And a lot of the stuff that translates well into VTubing is actually stuff like, oh, were you an artist with like a huge following beforehand that you've directly channeled into VTubing and stuff like that, or were you a video editor, or artist, singer? And the thing is, I am someone that can do all of those things to an amateur degree, and the things that I have done with my life, while a lot of them are proud of, they're not necessarily what I would have chosen. I just had a lack of opportunities because of my background, and so it's very much a case where I'm like, you know, I wish I could turn back time, but now the guilt is all mine. Near Judas Evangelion. But like I wish that I do wish that I could have had those that formation, that background, but I don't. And so it's like, how do I, you know, deal with that element? You know, what do I bring to the table if I can't bring that to the table? And luckily, thankfully, I have a lot of personality, so that's what carries it. For what little I got. But it's very hard because you look at others and you're like, oh, this person is an incredible artist, constantly churning out art. This person is an incredible singer, constantly doing these amazing covers, and they also have money to pay for MVs. Great. I don't. So yeah. Sorry.
I guess to like spin it the discussion on its head a little bit, because we've spoken about like the negatives and like the envy side of things. What do you guys each quantify as success for yourselves? And I guess to add on to that, you can talk about a little bit for your own experiences. Do you feel like you've achieved at least a little bit of success?
Well, I mean, I put it in the thread as well about how you can define success by yourself. I even put my own notes for what I consider. So I had 3 things that I consider for success, but it's a bit tricky for me to put. Hang on, how do I put this? For me to feel like there's been success, I need to feel satisfied first. I just can't be successful. I need to be satisfied with that first. So my 3 things were the ability to be kind to myself, having a good reputation, and also having a community that is quality over quantity. Those were my three guarantees for satisfaction and success. So yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to refresh the page, but X, formerly known as Twitter, is having a meltdown as a boo.
When hasn't it since October? Nia, did you want to jump in?
Yeah. So for me, I quantify success by 2 categories. There's like the internal success, and then there's like sort of external success, like what a general creator can have. The internal success for me is, am I happy with this thing that I'm doing? Will it make me feel better to put this out into the world? Do I think I'm improving, etc., etc. So like the more wholesome reasons for like why you would want to succeed. And then there's the external reasons, which is just like, I want a big audience. I want more people to see what I do. I want to make money off this. Give me money.
Please,
Give Near your money.
Yeah, thank you.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, so like I think that you can have there's like those 2 things, and both of those things are fine to have, but like ideally for someone, that inner success for me should take like precedent.
I guess while it's important, like while we're discussing this stuff already, you, Mika and Mara afterwards, is like, it's one thing to like talk the talk with a lot of these things that I find is like, we can all say like, yeah, like we want to have like, we want to be content with what we do. Like we want to not look at the numbers and just like look at ourselves and be happy, go Larry, like it's, you know, the ending to a kid's film, right? And everyone kind of like rides off into the sunset with a happy ending. But usually the reality is a lot more complex than that. And that's where the envy discussion kind of comes in and kind of like the basis for this entire thread and discussion here. I just want to add that caveat in. Mika or Maru, one of you guys can jump in here.
Yeah, I like when it comes to like, so we're talking about what success looks like, right?
Yeah, for yourself.
Is that the question?
yourself,
Yeah. So like, so I'm basically going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about like, there's one person that I am envious of. I'm not going to name them because this person, I like them, and I don't want them to feel bad at all. They're not a friend. They're just like an acquaintance. But yeah, but basically like, it's also absolutely not their fault that I have these like feelings that have nothing to do with them. They didn't ask for that. But no, but basically like success for me, like it's evolved. It's definitely evolved in the year and a half that I've been VTubing. And I think I've learned a lot. Like I think at first I had some more humble goals, but I realized that like about growth and stuff like that. But I realized a couple of months in that I was having those humble goals, counting on a huge success down the road. So I was like, oh, it's okay now. It's okay right now because I'm gonna fucking blow up, you know? Which is like, you know, it's a fucking triple gambit 10-dimensional chess that you're doing with your own self-esteem. It's like, aha, a bit of humility now for a lot of yeah. So it was kind of like self-deception in a way, because when I started in the scene, I only knew the corpos. Of course, like I knew only the corpos, you know. And so as I got more and more into the scene and saw how vast the pool was, I was like, oh, I am but a small fish. And earlier last year, I was starting to get like regulars and stuff, and But I saw that some people, some of my peers, by peers I usually mean people that I am, you know, friendly with or friends, and that are, you know, generally same size. And I saw that one of the said peers had a very active community, which I didn't have. I hadn't started my Discord yet. And this person helped me out a lot by making a document about what like I didn't ask him to do this. I was like, oh, do you have any pointers? And then this friend just like, here is a 5-page Google Doc with like, what does it mean to build a community that I just wrote for you, because I guess I felt like it, which was very, very kind.
Yeah.
It was super thoughtful. I look at it every now and again because it's super, super nice. And it kind of helped me realize, because like, you know, the difference between just having an audience and having a community. I want both. I want it all. Give it all to me. But and then I started doing kind of like slightly more interactive stuff, doing some hangouts on my server, which I haven't done that many of recently because, of course, hiatus. And then what happened is that I started building Gunpla, and suddenly my numbers tripled. my CCV tripled. And because I realized that there is,
You found your niche,
you know,
basically.
relatively, yeah, I found my niche. And I kept on growing from there, not just doing Gunpla building on stream, but doing other things as well. And as I attracted more and more people that were into what I was into or liked my vibe, I have now a very active community for the size of VTuber that I am. Like, I have a community where like I get up and I look at my Discord and there's like a lot of messages. Like, I am at a point where I can still read all of my Discord, but that's very nice. And I know a lot of people that are like my peers that don't have that. And it is, you know, so in that sense, I feel successful. I feel like sometimes I finish a stream and I'm like, wow, I've curated a good community, quality over quantity, like Firo says. It's a good space. It's good people. we're all on the same page. Everyone is like queer or like an ally. It's all good. And in terms of like some other like success stuff, like so for me that is a success. That is something I'm very, very proud of. And the other thing that I'm very, very proud of is that that I'm becoming known in the area of like Gunpla builders online. I'm on speaking terms with a couple of big Gunpla builders from YouTube, which is wild to me. People that I followed for years on YouTube know who I am. Like Bad Gunpla, Jason Bad Gunpla knows who I am, and I'm like, well, I've been following Bad Gunpla for like 6 years. You know what I mean? And I'm on speaking terms with him. I get to cuss him out on his own stream because he insults Iron Brew, the drink of Scotland. What's that about, Jason? But and the other thing that I feel is success, and I feel people undervalue this sometimes, is that I have a creative space, and this creative space allows me to make in a freer way than I have before. And I think that's one thing that is very good about a lot of the vibe of the VTuber scene. As a creative community, there's a lot of sharing. There's a lot of like taking and giving. There's a lot of like friendliness in that way, Like whenever I don't know how to do something, I just ask the person I see doing it. Even if I don't know them, I'm like, hey, sorry to DM you. Can I ask you how you did this? And they might say no. They might never reply. But I was polite and I asked. But yeah, I think that's a success for me, that I get to do these things that entertain people. I always bring it up to the Phoenix Wright style trial that I did in March for Captain Hurricane, which was a lot of fun, and it was ridiculous, and it took a lot of prep and a lot of like production and a lot of coordination, and that is something I couldn't have done in any other medium. It was like collaborative storytelling, essentially, with like visual aids and stuff like that, live. It was all done live. It was not pre-edited. And we had all these like transitions and banging the gavel and the music and objection and all that done live. And that's not something I could have made in any other medium or with any other people than the people I did it with. And that is a success to me. But there's still in the back of my mind, there's a thing that is like, oh, this other VTuber that you really like, that does similar stuff to what you do. She has a more active community. She has triple your numbers, and she's not interested in being your friend. And you're just like, oh, well, I have to put my big girl pants and I have to deal with that. So yeah, sorry, I just rambled for a bit.
That's all good.
That was very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Mika?
It's success is kind of interesting because I guess I kind of have a unique perspective in the terms of VTubing and success because of the opportunities that I've had. Like someone might look at me and see that I'm doing things like attending conventions as a guest and things like that and view that as success. And it is, obviously, it's still a very successful thing. And it's a very weird story about how that all happened. Basically, I made a stupid joke and then I kind of got like, so did you actually want to do this thing or were you bullshitting? And I went, yes. But the thing with success is it has to be something that you are satisfied with. And the thing is, it's a little bit like with how your streams go. And the thing is, you can always move the goalposts as well. So you might look at something that was successful, but you might go like a year later and go, actually, that was kind of not great. And I want to do more. I want to do more. I want to have more people attending this panel, or I want people attending more of these streams. And it's one of those things where it's good to set goals for like that success too. Like even within your own thing, like because it's always the greater pastures, I guess, are always changing, and you can acknowledge that, but you have to try and make sure it doesn't consume you as well, I feel.
Yeah.
I guess like if we were to like quantify like the success and like, you know, if we all feel like a little bit like we're hitting ballparks here and there, but we're not like wholly getting there, how much of the success that we haven't achieved yet is down to like negative thoughts and like the envious side of things, and versus it actually being like, I'm just not successful or I'm just not achieving?
I do think it is probably a factor that some people do probably hold themselves back. It could be someone who's not taking it super seriously because they're not looking at it as a super serious thing. Like Furo said, how some of us are treating it on like a more serious matter because it's like the only way some of us can actually have, I guess, like a stable job type thing. But some people are just doing it for fun. And in terms of things like envy, I think it could be difficult seeing like people who, because it's more carefree in a sense, it is possible that they're getting more success because they're, they're looking at it from a more general perspective versus if you're like treating it as more like a more important thing and kind of hyper focusing on that, and that can restrict your way of thinking or your way of doing things. Also, like you then have to take into account risk to your audience and your content, and as a result that can restrain you from growing because it's that risk reward thing that happens a lot. And someone who's doing it more for fun, they can do those bigger risks and it can sometimes pay off more, but it won't always pay off, and then that's kind of something that a lot of people will probably struggle with.
I guess it's like from there it is like a case of when you're on social media and when you're online, and talking about social media and its impact on this is actually very important. I'd like to get to that in a second. Is like when you're on social media, you're watching all these people who treat this as like their full-time job, and it's like you're getting constantly like their content, you're seeing it everywhere, versus like I think basically all of us where we treat it as our hobby, and so we can't dedicate the same level of resources or time into it, and then that maybe skews our perception that we're not doing enough when it's just a reality of we just don't have enough time in the day.
Have you not seen how much I stream? I'm treating this as a full-time job. I have 2 full-time jobs.
You do so much.
I mean,
yeah,
yes.
I would say, like what I've always said about VTubing is that for me, at least at this point, I call it more than a hobby, less than a job, because it is something that I wish I would like to make it my I would like to make content creation my full-time thing. I think it is sometimes important for VTubers to remember that this is content creation. This is a larger thing. A lot of the issues that, affect us are like a larger thing. And I want to make a success of this because I would like it to be my full-time job, but I can't make it my full-time job right now. And I think a lot of people are in that situation.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think the biggest thing for me is, although I do have time that I could make it a full-time thing, I've also got the other things I want to do, such as art commissions, which honestly do make a little bit more money than the streaming thing, but the streaming is a very good side thing that I think so. I don't know. I treat them both equally. I do love doing streaming. I do want to make it like a full-time thing, but mostly what gets in the way for me is my disability. So it's pretty hard. I don't want to burn myself out, especially since I am juggling so much stuff. And I know, currently for the next few months, I'm low on medication due to a prescription mix-up. That's why I've organized so much. Yes, I said before, like a lot of VTubers do have disabilities, and that does actually, I think that does contribute a lot towards envy as well, since those like me who do have a disability, they're able to look at people who are like, they're able to cope better. Maybe their symptoms aren't as aren't as severe, or they're neurotypical people, and we think, damn, I'm so envious of this person. They can do everything. Why can't I do this? Or if even. I think a lot of people with ADHD would actually be able to relate to feelings of imposter syndrome as well, or success amnesia. Yes. I think there's a term called success amnesia, where even though we can get successful and we do things, because of issues relating to our memory, we tend to actually forget or downplay them in our own mind, or or we think, oh no, that wasn't me, or that was a different me from then. I can't do that now. It's a lot of difficulties there. Yeah.
There's so much that I vibe with there, because like I am recently disabled. Yes. Aside from being ADHD before, like I am recently I have fatigue now and all that, and and it doesn't help when people are like, well, look at Iron Mouse, well, look at Kiara, and it's like, they're very cool, they are an inspiration, but it's kind of shy. This is something that I've known for years, yeah, because like I also like, you know, a lot of my friends are disabled anyway. Like a lot of my local group of friends is like mostly disabled people. It's like, it's this inspiration thing of like, well, look at this successful disabled person. Why can you be like that? You know,
that does bring up something interesting. Sorry to interrupt there. That does bring up something interesting that we did want to touch on as well about envy within the community. And we did have the small VTuber awards happen quite recently, which we had quite an interesting collection of reactions to. Ducky, would you like to explain?
I was hoping to fade into the background for a bit because I've been talking too much and now you bring this topic.
That's all right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we did have a set time as well,
go.
but let's get to this.
I'll bring it up in the scope of the VTuber Awards, and I'll probably throw to Nia because I haven't heard from Nia for a little bit. Because it's like small VTuber Awards, it's like social media scale and all that kinds of things, and like we can talk about like all the different facets of envy within the community. But for the bit of background knowledge here, the small VTuber Awards ran. Maru was actually a finalist.
Yes.
And there was 16 winners crowned across 95 shortlisted and 6,000 nominated. But that didn't necessarily stop people from Twitter crying about the popularity contest side of things. And I'll be a little bit blunt in saying that was just dumb and stupid. But like, you know, it does come from a place of these people would probably just be genuinely envious that people are getting highlighted over them, or like, you know, the fact that they're seeing people nominated for awards that they may consider to be like their contemporaries, like scratches that itch, you know, to give the generous reading in that regard. And then there's also the other thing of social media, which we raised earlier, like, you know, you're constantly being fed people who are more successful than you, or people who have bigger numbers than you, or people like who are doing things that you want to do that you just don't have the capacity to do, and that builds and builds on envy that kind of leads to perhaps resentment in the space and those kinds of things. Neo, did you want to add to this about like envy itself within the community and what you've seen?
Yes. There's a particular discussion. There's like a phrase. It's almost like, you know, like I don't know the term. But like it goes something like this. Like you shouldn't be trying for doing this. And oh my god.
Okay.
Give me a moment. I need to gather my thoughts.
You're good.
That's good. You got time. Good time for me to drink water.
Yeah, take a water break, everybody.
I'll take a water break. Also, my model has once more.
Yeah, one of you can talk, and I want to write this down to make sure that I get it out correctly.
Okay. Firo, Mika, did you want to jump in on the whole envy in the community thing?
To be completely honest, I try not to pay attention to the general envy thing of the community. I don't find it particularly constructive to me. I mean, I keep an eye on things. Like, I am someone who does keep an eye on the general thing, or like the general of the community, but unless I participate in a more like contained, like amongst friends and discuss like that, because I find that especially places like Twitter, it's very much an echo chamber of you know, complaining and why not me kind of attitude. And so I have pushed towards using my social media for a more like, this is for me to put my stuff out and to see what other people are doing, but not really paying attention to people carrying on.
But that in itself is like a conscious decision that you've made around that, right?
Yes, because I am tired and I only have so many hours in the day to do my 2 full-time jobs.
That's understandable.
All right. So So there was there's a particular way that people respond to like backlash and stuff to like people who have like experience envy and like express it so openly and kind of like almost maliciously, like in like a complaining type of way. And it's like your goal shouldn't be to get popular, it should be to like get better or improve or do these things. And that's like a fine enough response, but it feels like the second step of a conversation that like requires 6 steps to kind of fully go through, if that makes sense. Because I feel like a lot of people, when they're discussing stuff is that they don't really want to acknowledge the fact that like we are human beings and it is completely natural to kind of like have these sort of thoughts of envy and like how to express that, and how it can kind of eat away a lot of people. And I think I find like that sort of response of your goal shouldn't be to get popular a bit reductive and honestly a little bit kind of like not toxic positivity. But
that kind of trope, right? Where
yeah,
it's
the
like,
kind of train of thought. Yeah,
like you're
where
kind of like jumping forward a few steps and you're ignoring the fact that like to get all the other goals, it does help to have the popularity.
Yes, thank you. Or not even just that, but like even like people questioning their like own internal reasons for why they're doing things. Right? So like there's a kind of a framing as well that I think for me personally contributes to like that guilt or like envy of you shouldn't be feeling this way because your goals as like a creator should be these super altruistic things of like I want to create to inspire other people.
But that's unrealistic.
Yeah, it's kind of unrealistic. Yeah.
So like
yeah.
So like if I'm gonna like dial it down, I'm gonna kind of steal this talking point from like a CJVX video is that people kind of create out of like have like a more altruistic like creator point of view of like I want to inspire others or I want to create things. That's your like more noble goal, and then you have like the fear goal of I don't want to hate myself for not providing value into the world or something like that.
I mean, I first started streaming
and a lot of people. Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry, I was just gonna make a point. It's like when I first started streaming, my reason for streaming was I wanted to play more video games, and that was the vehicle to allow me to do that because I had someone else to hold me accountable to not get distracted. So
to get distracted from video games and that.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. That's me.
Yeah.
But like, oh my god.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation.
No,
I was just trying to.
I actually kind of wanted to throw to something like that kind of this trick to my brain about, and it goes back to the thread that Fira had with like malicious envy versus like benign envy, and like how there's like these feelings and they're like complicated and there's many different types of envy, and some are good and some are bad. Did you want to explain that a little bit, Fira, and how it kind of applies here?
Yes. Okay, so yeah, as I explained the thread, there are two types of envy. There is benign envy and there's malicious envy. Now, malicious envy is definitely the more negative aspect of it. It's something that's more destructive internally and externally, as it's very draining on your mental health as you compare yourself to other people. Externally as well, it destroys your relationships with other people. It makes you much more resentful towards others, and also that resentment as well can also carry over into the ideas, like negative ideas about what success means. And one of the inherent traits or thoughts involved with malicious envy is thinking that it is a zero-sum game, which means if you want to find success, that means that you have to steal that success from somebody else, or even just seeing that other person that you have is the object of your envy, wanting to see them ruined in some way. And I know we have seen that in many times across the VTuber sphere. We've seen people go, oh, they don't deserve this, or they've tried to bring out certain accusations against people in an attempt to ruin their reputation, that sort of thing. I'm not going to focus too much on exactly like things that we've seen there. I know we did see some of that during the Small VTuber Awards. Probably, I don't think it was like extremely bad, but people were very, very negative in that term.
Award shows generally have that effect on people.
Yes,
just
they do.
Generally any award show.
I know. There's always accusations of various things. Oh, popularity contest, that sort of stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
But benign envy, let's move on to a more positive part of it. Benign envy is, although someone is the object of your envy, you see it in a positive manner. You want to emulate that person through your own power. You don't want to steal from them. You realize that you can find your own audience. You just have that person as inspiration. So, I don't know who I would say by inspiration.
but that's surely like an experience that the rest of us on the call can kind of relate to, right? Where we see someone and we're not necessarily like envious of their success in the ways of like, oh, I hate them because of it, or I wish I was that. It's just like, oh, this gives me something to work towards.
Yes, it gives a goal. It's like, this person's really, really cool. I love what they're doing. I wish I could do the same thing. I'm going to try and figure out how I can try and reach that sort of level myself, not through any negative means. It's all about self-motivation. It as I said in the thing, it inspires, motivates us, increases our awareness of our wants, and gives us the ability to observe what information and skills we need in order to fulfill our own deep desires. It's very internalized. It's not exactly focused externally. So yeah.
Does anyone else have like an experience that kind of relates to that?
Well, me, I guess. Miyu, I hope you're not here. It's gonna be embarrassing because I reconnected with Miyu because we met each other at anime conventions many years ago. And of course, Miyu got into drawing VTuber models. And then when we reconnected, I joined her server. She got her VTuber model and started getting commission. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool! That's so cool. And then I connected with Edo as well, and he drew my first model. And after a while, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this as well. I can do this. And I the first thing I drew was Potato Rainy, like my little gremlin thing that appears on stream for BTS.
Adorable.
Yeah, the pog thing. And Shark was there to help me. He's been my business buddy through the whole entire thing, doing all my rigging. In a way, we both took each other under our wings. Even though Shark is quite a bit younger than me, but we've definitely got equal knowledge on what to do. So we helped each other out, and I know we're going to be starting like a little studio soon between each other because we've come this far now.
Yay.
And
Nice.
and like I still have my own difficulties and disabilities. I have I think I've told people about this. I have a shoulder injury, so I can't exactly draw like the same sort of amount as what some other people do. That was something that happened after the Neopet stuff. So So I do have envy towards. Oh, sorry. I do have some envy towards Miyu, but she's definitely been a huge inspiration. Same with Edo, and Shark's also inspired me to get better, and I found my own little niche. And that's benign. That's a good example of benign envy, I would say.
And not to toot Nia's own horn here, but like Nia, as all four of us could probably attest to, has like gone through this a lot in the last kind of 6 weeks or so with his editor work in terms of like that massive quest of self-improvement. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Nia.
Did you want to talk a little bit about it? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Up to you, too.
I guess we can do that. Okay, so beforehand, I guess another word for benign envy is basically just admiration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, but I've been like, since I started to take work as like a video or commission work as a video editor for like the first time. I got into editing specifically because I was kind of done with streaming. And it wasn't because that I just like sometimes you try something and it doesn't work, you know? Some people aren't really meant to work as well in like a live format. I kind of realized that I like doing edit work as well. And I think I like being an editor because you don't always need to be the main character. I suppose like my role as an editor is to help bring out the best in someone else when you're editing for them. Right, like I've edited for Mika as well in here.
You have. It's one of my best videos.
Yeah, his
Best viewed
debut
videos,
stream highlights. Yeah, I think that's his most viewed video now, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm happy. And I think what's also something that's also to be said about envy is that you kind of like. I think your ultimate when people say their ultimate goal is for quality, or like to improve themselves. Sometimes your role is best suited in like helping other people, and that can work just fine. Like same thing in like a comedy, how you can't always be like the big funny person. Like you might need to be like the straight man in like a skit or something like that, or just I guess what Ducky is doing here with like kind of helping to moderate this discussion.
Trying.
I'm not sure. I'm
yeah.
I will
It's like
say, like, oh, sorry.
you go.
Oh no. Yeah, Near, you linked me to oh god, what's the name of that YouTuber? You linked me to a video essay about creativity and like
It's from
envy and
it's
stuff
CJ
like-
the X.
yeah,
CJ is
that
a
one.
creator that I heavily recommend. They do content specifically about creating art and being the process of creation. They're doing unrelated works and stuff like that. And I've kind of like took a little bit, twisted their points a little bit about being a creator. And this is someone I would heavily recommend to watch if you are into creating and want to like kind of be a better, approach a better mindset as a creator. And I'm not sure how else to elaborate on that, but there we go.
No, I was gonna say that essay that you linked, like, it's what introduced me to the term main character syndrome.
Yes,
which
I use this all the
hadn't-
time.
Yeah, I hadn't heard before, because unlike you kids, I'm not on your TikToks. I'm not on the TikToks, and not
Who are
in
you
the
calling a kid?
MySpace.
Neither am I.
And
I'm the boomer at heart here.
but basically, like, and I was like, oh man, I am the main character syndrome. The main character syndrome is coming from inside the house. And I do have that. You can tell a lot by how I carry myself, how I talk a bit. I do have a bit of an ego on me. And that essay challenged me, and I was like, oh, ooh, yeah. And it's like it, like, I like the approach that you take, Near, of like, I don't necessarily want to be the main character, and that's really cool, because it doesn't mean like, we have this like we have this view that it's like, the artist, the author, you know what I mean? George Lucas made Star Wars, not like, the hundreds of people were involved in the creation of Star Wars, you know what I mean? And it's like and it is trying to balance that with the fact with, if you do want to be the main character, if you do want to be the face of things, which is what I want to do, but kind of balancing that with not getting into this weird main character mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that does make sense. Especially within I guess as a streamer, we can't, like, we're all the stars of our own stream. That's for sure. But at the same time, we're part of a giant community, and collaboration is a very important aspect for VTubers, especially. It's funny me saying all this when we're doing the collaboration. But yeah, and one of those things is we have to collaborate with others in order to find success as well. I doubt that there's very many VTubers who can do things just completely solo. They have to, like, even if like non-VTubers, if they're just streaming, they do need to collaborate with others as well. And we can't be the main character, so we can't take over everything. We need to be able to talk evenly with everybody, and we have to be aware of how we're relating to other people in our sphere too. Even people, like even the big corpos, we have to be aware of what they're doing, and I'm sure they're very aware of what a lot of small VTubers are doing, and they're seeing the trends, and they don't, we're always trying very hard not to step on people's toes. So it's
Yeah, I guess like I have a slightly different perspective of main character syndrome, in that throughout your own life and in your own life journey, you are your own main character. And what that means to me is you have to kind of do things for yourself, because in everyone else's life, they're their own main characters as well. And like all these people here, I consider them great friends, but there is still like a level of importance that you have to put on yourself above everyone else to kind of like get through and achieve your own things. Because in this kind of way, the opportunities have to be made by you, and you kind of have to take them as they come. And everyone else will be out there, and there'll be definitely people in your life who want to look out for you and want to find things to help you. But you, at the end of the day, are the main character of your own life. You kind of have to seize it with both hands. That's how I kind of see like main character syndrome, and how that kind of plays into VTubing and content creation is like, moderator's getting a bit personal here. I, saw my own niches and my own directions that I wanted to take, and I saw gaps, and I was like, you know what? No one else is doing this. I want to start chatting to VTubers. Originally, it was I wanted to chat to Oceanic esports pros, or I wanted to chat to professional cyclists. To go back to both my previous haunts. But it was like no one I saw was doing the same thing that I wanted to see, and it was like, be the change you want to see. But that only comes around when you kind of take the opportunities by the horns, and you can be inspired by people outside of the content creation medium. You can be, in fact, I think a lot of the inspiration that I've taken in my content has come from people who don't exist as VTubers, who don't even exist in the online space, and are like print journos who talk about sport. But that's my vision on main character syndrome, and how that kind of can be used to power yourself forward and take those opportunities.
Yeah.
Oh, they're very good points.
I'm conscious of a little bit of the time here, and
Yes.
I've got a couple of final questions that we can kind of pass around the room to end this topic off. Let me see if I find my place on my paper that I can actually write the question that I had in mind before I went on my little tangent. Oh, yes, okay. People can pick this up as they feel. Whoever wants to jump in first can jump in. How have your feelings of envy changed the longer that you have been in content creation? Have they gotten better or worse?
I would like to start first.
Sure.
My feelings have changed significantly over time, and I think partially that is because the way that I created content has shifted so much, from like all streaming to pretty much pure edited content. When you're like doing something, sometimes you aren't a good fit for that. And like when I wasn't I just not a good fit for streaming. So when I wasn't a good fit for streaming, I would feel like the most envious about people like that, who were really good at streaming, who like had natural charisma, who had the ability to carry an audience, stuff like that. And that changed when you kind of realize that, oh, I don't need to do this thing that is causing me so much stress. I can just do the parts of it that I really like. And for me, my favorite parts of VTubing are like the visual presentation aspect, the sort of ability to kind of like create these things which you're kind of limited to in like a real life creator flesh tuber thing.
Pardon the pun here. You really appreciate having the blank piece of paper.
Yes, exactly. But yes, that's exactly what I like doing. So you don't have to. For me, once I realized that I didn't have to do something that like was giving me this grief, my relationship with envy immediately improved, and it sort of turned from like this like, why can't I do these things, to, oh, I can't wait to do this thing. It's like it's very changed directly. It's just like, you don't need to do these things that like, if they're giving you grief, you can kind of figure out something else. It's totally fine. Don't feel like you have to stick to something just because all the other creators are doing it, basically.
If it sucks, hit the brakes.
Yeah. Find something you care for. Did you want to add something here, Mika? Because I'm actually going to put you a little bit on the spot here. Sorry, Mika. I would actually appreciate hearing your perspective on this around you before your rebrand and you after your rebrand.
Oh, that's perfect.
If that changed anything for you.
Sure. It may not be the greatest mindset, but a lot of the time I'll look at something and I'll kind of go, okay, get over it. You can find your own way to do this thing. And which is how I tend to approach all the things. It's like, oh, I can't do this. Okay, well, don't complain. Find out how to do it, or find out how to do it your way, or find out if it's just not something for you. And that's kind of what happened with my rebrand. So I originally was in a different model, different persona, and I found that I was getting, frustrated and upset that things weren't working the way I wanted them to. And part of that being because I chose to do things with a model and a persona that didn't fit me. And as a result, by changing it, I feel more comfortable doing things. I feel more comfortable being seen. I feel more comfortable trying new things. And because of that, a lot of the time, I don't have those same kinds of feelings of like frustration or envy towards others, because I'm also not holding myself back anymore, because I can approach them in a way that I'm happier to approach. And I did get over it. I got over it, and it took a while, but I got over it in the way that I needed to, inside my own head. And then obviously it's still a growing process because there's a long way to go, but it's little by little. And like sometimes getting over it is, you know, getting up today and doing something, or getting over it is it's like getting over it is trying something that someone else has done, but doing it your own way, and like not worrying about the fact that they have done it as well. Yeah. Because there's gonna be like 1,000 different people who've tried, you know, this one type of thing. You can try too. You're not, you know, you're not a bad person for doing the same thing as long as you do it your own way, and you're not like blatantly copying or stealing from anyone. Because, you know, like everyone's, you know, there's no, what was it, the whole thing is like there's no originality anymore, which isn't, I don't think is really true, but
we're all just Genshin characters now, apparently.
God, don't even get me started. But like, it's just kind of like that attitude of like get over it in like increments. Like, you don't have to get over everything all at once, but you do have, like, you might have to get over like, you know, that feeling of sadness. It's like, it's, you can be gentle with yourself. Getting over it could be, you know, taking the time to, you know, have a nap because you're tired, and that helps with like the feelings a little bit. It's
Getting over it could be physically playing the game. Getting over it.
Do not bring up that goddamn game. I swear.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games ever.
I did want to bring that up specifically for your reaction, because I knew that was what I was going to get.
I hate you.
We've been called a panel of 5 stars.
Oh yes, beautiful. SSR, all of us.
Yeah.
Do you kind of resonate with that, Firo, considering you also went through a rebrand?
Strangely, because
I know yours is different.
Yeah, my story is very, very different. But I would say from the very start, I wanted to be a kaiju VTuber, so I kind of chickened out because I was like, okay, I want to get this VTuber model done, but I don't know what design I want to go for. Yeah, we share similarities there for sure, because I do find out with a lot of VTubers, they say, okay, this doesn't represent me, or I have this idea in mind, but in the end, I'm too afraid to go for it, so I'll go with something that I'm safe with, but I end up ultimately being dissatisfied with. In my case, 100%. Like my first model ended up just being me. And I know there's definitely a couple of similarities between that one and this one, like, especially since Edo did the model as well. But I guess I was dissatisfied, but at the same time I felt comfortable because I was me, which I believe would be very, very different for you, Mika. But yeah, there was never a question of who I wanted to be as a VTuber, I suppose. Just the confidence.
I'll throw to you.
I don't know if I did that right or not.
No, that's fine. I'll throw to you here, Maru, with just like a different question. We can start doing the kind of putting a bow on this conversation, because you spoke quite openly a little bit earlier about your own experiences with envy, and how you managed to move forward. How can the community therefore move forward, and what are the things that can be done either individually, as like what do individual creators need to hear out for, or on a more broader spectrum, what does the community need to understand to get themselves over it?
So I mean, I do want to say I'm not an authority, and I'm also not, and also much like most people that have played Getting Over It with Bennett 40, I have not yet gotten fully over it, and I don't think anyone fully does. Right? We're all human here, by which I mean I'm an android, and Firo is a kaiju. But I feel like what helps, I mean, of course, like, first of all, not everything works for everybody, but there is an aspect of like playing to your strengths, finding what your strengths are, and like focusing on that, or focusing on something you want to improve, And if you're like, if your first reaction to that is, I don't have any strengths, well, there you go. That's something for you to start working on. But I feel like everybody has strengths. Maybe you don't have a strength right now, but you might have a strength in a while. And patience is very important. That's incredibly important in creativity.
And you gotta work. You gotta work for it.
You gotta work for it. Like, I feel like, okay, one of the things that like people tell me is like, you know, how can you talk so much, and how can you just like constantly have things to say? And it's like, well, I did stand-up comedy for 5 years. That's like the one relevant thing that I was alluding to earlier that like helps me to like have like a sort of presence and a sort of confidence in front of a crowd of people. Like, if you can do it in real, you can do it in here, and that's not going to be for most people. But what I will say is that like, you will find a strength that is yours, and maybe you don't have it right now, and maybe specifically streaming as a VTuber is not exactly what the thing that you need to do. But I would say in the VTuber scene, sorry, that's going to what Nia was saying, right? Like, you don't necessarily need to do things the way other VTubers do. But I would say in the community, it's like, we have a tendency to be dismissive of success. I do it. I definitely have looked at people and go like, oh, well, she's successful because this, because of that, because of blah, blah, blah. And that might be true, but how does that help you? You know what I mean? How does that help you? So, and
those people that you might be envious of might have their own feelings of envy or negative thoughts as well, around their success and content creation.
Yeah, there's a VTuber that I really like, that I look up to. Different VTuber to earlier. I'm not naming names either. And this VTuber is someone that I really admire and that I would consider her successful. She's not a full-timer, but she's got a big-ish following. And I like her. I like her a lot. I like her vibe. She's great. I can't catch her live very much because of time zones. And she struggles with it a lot. She struggles with this a lot because she's put a lot of herself into the work that she does. She's worked a lot. She's traveled. She's met fans in person. You know, she's been in panels. She's done concerts, and she still struggles with this because she hasn't super blown up. Like, and you know, even people that I look up to struggle with this. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, there is a level to which other people struggle with it as well, but I would say the thing is that it's tearing down others for success is not always the most helpful thing for you. Like, you might be right to be like, oh, this person got disadvantaged. And it's like, yeah, they do. What are you gonna do about it, right? And it's like confronting the fact that like there is an unfair level of advantages and disadvantages. And as an adult, how are we gonna deal with this? You know what I mean? How are we gonna deal with the fact that other people have things that we can't have? And this is just a general thing in life. You know what I mean? It took me a long time to deal with that because I came from a relatively privileged background, and then I became a queer migrant, and that a lot of that slid away. And so I still have like this thing of like looking at people that are from my original class background and going like, oh, why, you know? So you need to kind of like start figuring out that resilience. Like, you know, like our friend Hannah says, like, you know, the thing that idols mention serve them the most is mental resilience, right? And that's the thing that we have to kind of cultivate. I also feel like people in the small VTuber scene, in the small indie scene, need to kind of realize that what we all have in common is being VTubers. We don't necessarily have in common perspectives. You know, it's like Folk was saying earlier, like some people are doing this as a job, some people are doing it as a hobby. And it's like, well, is it fair for you to compare yourself to someone that's doing it full time and that was able to afford to quit their job? You know what I mean? Be fair to yourself and be fair to the people that you know. Yeah.
Who wants to jump in next? Because I feel like a lot of us would probably echo the same points. But I'm very interested to hear if anyone wants to build onto that.
I think Maru covered a lot of the
I
stuff.
think
that
Maru
would say
covered it
also.
really well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's actually really
It's all
good then.
good.
That's good
Yeah.
then. Mm.
I think my to add my own 2 cents onto it is like what the community needs to do to kind of get over it is to just not engage. Like in terms of like the community side of things is like a lot of the things that feeds into itself is the nature of social media and then like the tendency to engage and then it spirals and then all of a
Snake
sudden
eating
you're,
tail.
yeah, and then like your algorithm is all of a sudden just full of negativity and full of all this kind of stuff that you don't want. There is ways where you can curate. Don't be afraid of your mute button. Don't be afraid of your block button while it exists on Twitter. And
Yeah.
you can be able to curate your space in the way that makes you comfortable, whether that be blocking people, inviting certain people in, and finding the right kind of headspace that you want to be in to make this whatever you want it to be. That would probably be my only kind of advice to add on top of like what Maru said, or like my only kind of sentiment to add on top of what Maru said in terms of like a way of dealing with envy or a way with grappling with negative feelings is, you know, the mute button is there. The block button is there. You do have power over your destiny in this situation.
There is,
Yeah.
I think I do have one more thing I'd like to add. This was something I was actually going to bring up in the thread originally, but I didn't end up doing it. And it is the thought that I know there are some people who feel like they need to use others in order to get ahead. I feel like that is something that pops up every now and again with people.
Clout.
Clout chasing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people need to realize that they shouldn't be doing and they don't need to do. They can actually make good, positive friendships with people and accept it. I think, especially for a lot of younger people, because I mean, my age, I know this all too well. People fade away. People's friendships aren't forever. It's not like cartoons where kids will be friends forever, even until their old age. By the time you get into your early 20s, people will already have started to fade away because the only thing you might have had in common at school was the fact that you were in the same class, and people will move on. They'll get jobs. They'll start families. They'll go into other places, new hobbies and everything. And you need to accept that even if you are within the VTuber sphere and you make friends with some people, you'll have those friends fade away, either because they move into a different niche maybe, or they make other friend groups, or
Or they quit.
Oh yeah, they quit
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
People move on.
But yeah, that there's no need to think that the friends you are with that they are there just to be used or that they are using you. So that's
Also, you
another
don't
mental
have to like.
resilience
It's fine if they don't follow you on Twitter. Some
Yes.
people think that's like a thing.
thing. Yes. You don't need all
You
your friends to follow
unfollowed me.
you.
How dare you? We're not friends anymore.
Mika, I'm unfollowing you right now.
No.
Can we
Whatever,
just
shall I
double, can we
do?
just double check that Firo is still at 666 followers on Twitter, or else I
Am
might
I?
have to do the same.
No, I think it's changed now.
Right.
Damn it, I lost my
Following
devil number.
immediately. Did you want to add something, Neil?
Let me just throw like a bunch of one sentence dumb thing. Twitter is not a real place. Don't
Yes.
trust how you feel about yourself after 9 p.m.
Yes.
That's
You
a good
can
point. Oh my
kill
God.
God, and you
You
should
just need
kill
more
God.
caffeine. You just need more caffeine. It's fine.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep. That,
Yeah.
that about sums it up.
Well, that's all
Yes.
relevant information.
Yeah. Do we have time for a couple of questions from chat, or even questions between yourselves? Like, obviously, we've been in here, and I've been kind of asking the questions to everyone. But you might have been listening, and you might have questions for one of the other panelists. And you know, this is now the time to ask, I guess. Well,
I'm fine answering a few questions. I know we had one before.
So we had one from
25.
Baghead, yeah.
Yes, if you'd like to read that out.
yeah. So Baghead asked, and I think this is mostly going to be relevant to you, Mika, but also probably Firo a little bit as well. What do you feel when some viewers bring up your old persona in chat while you stream?
I think it depends on how they bring it up.
I think, yeah.
Because like for me, I'm fine with like talking about it. It's still a part of like, you know, the last several years of VTubing and things. But if they're gonna be like, oh well, I miss the old you sort of thing, and it's and I've seen that happen for some bigger creators. I think a really good example of that is Eye Candy, who's like a
Right.
a bigger Aussie creator who went for a very different, like very, very different model, similar to sort of me. And it's kind of like, I mean, you can miss them, but you kind of have to accept that particular version is gone. If you can't accept that, then it's fine if you move on. I completely understand. Like if you don't feel comfortable with, you know, for example, me being more comfortable with who I am and being more free in talking about what I want to talk about, and you don't feel that content is for you anymore, that's fine. But you don't have to announce it. You can just leave. It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to like announce yourself as you exit, which is what a lot of people seem to think that they have to do. It's like, oh well, you're not the same person anymore, so I'm not sticking around, or I'm gonna go support someone else. It's like
okay, don't let the door get you on the way out.
All right, bye, have fun.
Bye.
I know for me, my community mostly treats it as a big joke.
Rainy still lives on in Potato Rainy.
Yes, especially since when I did my re-debut, we basically killed Rainy off and we burned her house down.
Actually, both of you had the similar things. Okay, so Mika went killing off old model, had falling to death in Minecraft as their profile picture for a week, and then on the other side of things, we had...
Hold on. She has gone back to her the ultimate dimension that her boss comes from. The death thing was because of a subathon, donathon thing that Twitter picked the picture for. That's not related whatsoever.
I do love how you were like intending to set up to die in Minecraft, and then you just did it anyways unprompted. It was very poetic, and yes, I will believe you on this fact.
I put up a funeral picture.
Also, yeah, I was just about to say, to make the comparison, is there was the funeral picture for Rainy as well.
I said the traditional Japanese funeral picture with the little black ribbons on it. That's my icon.
I will say, and there are pictures of it, but so at the convention, there's still some Jezebel merch available. So what happened was the convention staff made a death funeral picture for Jezebel and put that next to it and said Jezebel memorial merch for like the leftover stuff that still hadn't been sold. So
amazing.
But generally for me, I'm fine with it. Especially since I do keep Potato Rainy with me as my little mascot character now. She's even got her own little lore. And I do love that everybody's accepted it. And people just continue to call me Rainy. I'm fine. I've been using that username for like 20 years now. I don't care.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Baghead, I hope that answers your question. We'll move on to the question from Pemmet as well.
Yes.
Which is, how do you move on from feelings of envy and negative emotions? Any techniques? We did touch on this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but Nia has just bumped me to say that he has something to say about it. So Nia, did you want to take the floor here?
So I talked about it in a more specific sense, but like in a broader general sense, if you want to like move on from feelings of envy, the first thing is obviously like you have to acknowledge that that's what it's feeling. Just have like an honest conversation with yourself. It's something that takes time, right? To kind of do, and like legitimately just kind of deliberately reframing your mind. Kind of like, you know, dialectic behavioral therapy, DBT type technique, stuff like that. And oh my god, for me as well, it's like if you're in a corner where like in that corner's negative emotions, just walk back from the corner.
Go take a cold shower.
Yeah, like just you can like walk away from it. It's fine. There's no like rules for how you should feel. I think that like envy is also kind of a byproduct of how you're expected to feel as well. So you like, it's fine to be that way.
Yeah.
Just kind of like that sort of acknowledgement. There's a lot of like other techniques, just that's like the broadest thing of reframe your mind. You can walk away from a corner when you're back into one.
Yeah, I'm going to post the link to the original thread as well.
I was just about to say, like, as the original thread owner and the person who did this from start to finish, what worked for you?
Well, as I put in there, like I put introspection. So introspection is a technique where we do like thoughtfulness and mindfulness about ourselves. We look at things from we look at ourselves from an inward perspective. We don't look at the outside. We ask ourselves questions about ourselves. So some of my examples were things like, after I hit the stop streaming button, what are my first thoughts and how often do I have those same thoughts? How has envy affected my relationship with other VTubers? What do I feel when I see my more popular friend is streaming? And you answer those questions by going, I feel this, I feel that. And you have to self-validate yourself. And once you're able to validate your feelings and you're very honest with yourself, I think you can tackle those feelings much more head on, and you can also look at those in a more realistic manner. So you have to do realistic assessments. I did add a thing on the thread, which we didn't really touch on, which was the reality for VTubers, streamers in general as well, about how like a lot of VTubers, like we're never going to crack. We're never going to get popular. I think that's going to be a reality for a lot of us.
You don't have to say it like that. Like, geez,
I know it is a hard reality sometimes too. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm looking at realistic assessments, but it doesn't mean that we can't find success in ways. So it depends on how we define success, and doing that can help with our envy towards others as well. So if you, for example, like finding the benign envy within ourselves to motivate ourselves and emulate others to find some semblance of maybe success or at least satisfaction, that sort of thing. Yeah.
We'll take one more question. And I feel like we can all chat to this a little bit because it's brought up briefly.
I was just gonna say I this question I did answer it earlier, so I don't have anything else to add. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all good. So it was like mentioned earlier. This is from the White Fox sub.
Yes.
You mentioned friend fading away, which is true, but making new friends comes with this too. What are some of the ways you can suss out people who want to be friends genuinely rather than being shady?
Ooh, that's a very good question, actually.
That's a good. Can I?
Yeah,
can
you
I
go.
first?
You start first, Maru.
I'm gonna start by saying something that comes with old age. You can never fully predict how a friendship is gonna go. Actually, you can never predict how a relationship of any kind is gonna go. And you have to make your peace with that. The fact that people might drift away or they might stay in your entire life. I have people that I was very, very, very close to that we just faded away from each other's lives. And then I have people that have been in my life. I'm not super close to them. I've never been super close to them, but they have been consistently my friend for 10 years. You know what I mean? And so friendships can fluctuate, and that is a normal thing. And I guess this is also a general good thing to take into VTubing. Like, the things that apply to how you relate to people outside of VTubing apply here. Like, like friendships can fade away, and you need to kind of like be respectful of others and also be careful with yourself. Like, yeah, sometimes people in creative scenes are trying to use others. So how can you develop a sense of that? Sadly, it's kind of experience. A lot of it is like, is someone oh great, my model's paralyzed again. Is someone like doing like the love bombing? You know what I mean? Like, do we know what I mean by that? Like, what are like
showering with affection?
Can I quickly give an explanation? Okay, love bombing is, well, it's actually mostly associated with like what cults do. I actually know a lot about cults for some reason. Love bombing is no. My aunt was in a cult, so I don't. Love bombing is when they basically heap lots and lots of praise on you. Someone will give you they'll offer everything to you. They'll tell you how special you are. They'll make you feel like you can't really be without them, and then eventually they will take that love away from you. They'll completely rip it away from you and leave you feeling like you have to work harder and harder and harder in order to earn their love back. It's
a manipulation tactic.
It's definitely manipulation.
Yeah, I was like in these terms, I'm talking about it a bit in a obviously smaller scale.
Yes.
Because like I kind of experienced that a couple of times with people, and one of the times it was very subtle. And because it didn't have the aspect of taking it away, but it did have the aspect of like, oh, you gave me all of this love, why won't you support me now when I am being accused of doing horrible things? And and so there's an aspect of that, and it's hard because like you do gotta build a sense around that. And I'm getting to a point with my size where it's starting to happen more. Because the moment that you start being noticed, is the moment you enter like the rat race, and so there are people that are like cloud chasing much more, and it's difficult. But yes, keep your friends close.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
You go, Mika.
Okay, I was gonna say also sometimes people are just not great at expressing things socially, so they may not realize the way they are talking and way they're speaking.
He's just like me for real.
or it could just be that, you know, sometimes you get a vibe about someone and you don't feel comfortable, and you also have to remember that you don't have to sacrifice your own comfort to make friends. And I think that's very important, especially when there are, you know, there's limits to how often you can talk to people or how much free time you have. And it's just kind of, people kind of forget that you don't have to be friends with everyone. And you also don't have to always be friends with your friends. Like, you don't have to message someone every day. You can for some people, and if that's the vibe, that's fine. I have some friends that I talk to like every 6 months, like once every 6 months we say hi, and that's fine, and we pick up exactly where we were. But there are some friends that I have that I talk to like literally all day, every day.
Hello.
Sorry, it's one of those things where you kind of have to. You can't really practice because every person is different, but you can kind of get a feel for the environment. And don't be afraid to say, hey, this is making me a little bit uncomfortable. Can you maybe not do this? Can you maybe take a step back? I have had someone who DM'd me, they were really excited to talk to me, and they're like, oh, I want to be friends with you. It's like the second message they sent, and I was just like, okay, that doesn't make me feel comfortable, so I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Because you gotta let that stuff percolate a little bit.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything else to add?
Well, I do for that one. I think, because I know Fox is a friend of mine, so I think I understand where he's coming from here. Especially since both me and him share the trait. We're both kind of a little bit naive sometimes with friendships. I would say it's really good to try and learn red flags, I would say, for that sort of thing. What's that saying again? Believe people when they tell you who they are. But there's also times where people will go like, oh, you can trust me, I'm a good person, and that can come off as a red flag. Like, you need to be able to read between the lines sometimes of what people say.
I'm a nice guy.
I'm a nice guy. There are certain things like that where you have to be a little bit careful about it. Generally for me, my thing is everyone has my respect until they lose it. That's how I approach things. And I try to keep an eye out on when, like, there are certain things people will say and it's very subtle, but you have to be on the lookout for those sorts of things too, because if you let it go too far, then the subtle things will eventually become more overt. So yeah, you have to be on the lookout sometimes, but I know everyone wants to be really
the line
trusting
and things like that.
Yeah. I know. I want to be trusting and everything, but there are definitely always bad people out there you have to be aware of.
Oh, you go, Neil.
Sorry, there's one small thing that I didn't hear brought up. When someone first reaches out to you, I think like another small thing is if they're asking for something, like they're asking something like a collaboration, like an access to your audience, which is like something they might want, or
I've seen that before. Yeah.
That's just like a more basic one. There's the difference between that, like just asking like a question, like what's this trick that you use, or how did you do this thing?
For the record, for the record, it is okay to ask that, but like, don't expect everyone to be okay with you asking it.
Yes.
Also,
exactly.
Be okay if the answer is no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly
I think
it. And be polite when you ask. Be nice.
That's probably the biggest thing. A friend will respect your boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I want to kind of take the last word here and the last laugh.
Yes, please do.
Because I come to this from a very different perspective where I have to talk to a lot of people for very superficial time about things, just generally. I have talked to now in the hundreds of VTubers and interviewed. 2 of them are in this panel right now. And like I've interviewed countless others. And so I have always struggled with trying to humanize myself and humanize the interactions and the relationships that I have with people in VTubing, because people just see me as the journalist, or like the journo guy, or the guy who talks to other people. And like, it's very hard to then capitalize that feeling of, hey, I'm also a VTuber and I kind of want to make some VTuber friends, while also trying to juggle the fact that my work and the nature of my work does make me a little bit of an intimidating presence for some people when I come out to them and say, hey, my name is Ducky. Can I interview you for this article that I want to do? That is tricky. And that is something that you only reconcile with time. And so like, to kind of answer your question of like, what are some ways you can suss out people who want to be your friends genuinely with them rather than being shady? As someone who has had to do that literally hundreds of times, with every single interaction that I've had about an article, it is just a case of finding out a little bit more about them. It is, don't take the first answer. It is always continue the conversation to a point. I'm always one to be a little bit too forgiving and trusting.
Don't get me started.
What are you implying here? I am very much willing to give people time of day, but they also have to respect my time. And once you kind of cross that line and that barrier is broken, that's where you have to kind of break things off. Is when it's okay to have mutual respect, and that is where you want to be. It's the moment that respect is broken one way or another, is the moment where either the bridge is burnt or you just will never reconcile that relationship. So just keep that in mind. And also, the one thing I didn't touch on is like, when I approach people, I feel like there's a genuine power imbalance, but that dives into a whole nother bit of like why I feel envy in the VTubing space, and we're running out of time. So I'm going to ignore that question. Because I am mindful that we kind of budgeted like 90 minutes for this conversation. We've gone for nearly...
Well, originally we did say 2, so I think...
90 minutes to 2, and we're coming up on that, so...
I'm the filthy American, it is 2 a.m.
Yeah, and also, I'm sure the sun is well and firmly up where Maru is now.
Oh yeah, it's 8 a.m. It's beautiful. It's beautiful out.
Wow.
It's very cloudy.
I think it's a high time that we leave the discussion here. And I greatly just want to say huge thanks to Mika, Maru, and Nia for coming on and saying yes to this project and saying yes to this discussion. But an even bigger thanks to Firo for inspiring the idea, hosting the stream, and doing everything. So thank you for coming along, everyone. We really appreciate that you liked this, hopefully.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Yeah, that was seeing that one little idea like that blossom into a wonderful live stream. Yes,
I'm thankful
thank you so
to
much.
get to talk with you all and be on this panel.
Yes. I'm very...
Thanks for listening to us ramble about stuff.
Yeah.
This was fun. I want to do this more.
A little bit cathartic, yes. We've got to find more topics.
I was going to say, we're now going back to the topic drawing board. Here we go.
I mean, honestly, like, I think this topic is so big, and there's like so much that, like, we could, there's so much more that we could even cover, I feel. You know what I mean?
Probably, yes.
Just on this topic alone. Like, one thing that I thought was going to come up and didn't is like, what do you do when you are the person that people are envying? Stuff like that. And that could be a whole other thing.
Barely touched on that. Yeah.
I mean, we could always do a part 2.
Yes!
Yay, part 2.
But yeah. I guess, Firo, it's your stream. I guess I can throw it back to you now, and you can do whatever the hell you want from here.
All right. Well,
You can eat us out the window.